So, the Nikon Z 85mm 1.8s. How does it fare? I think it was about time that I did a review for this lens, seeing as the 1.2 has just been released and that has a hefty price tag. In my opinion, I don't think it's necessary. I think this one does so well and I think the photos show. So first of all, who is this lens for? Generally speaking, it is for portrait photographers, though it is pretty versatile. Obviously, it does have quite a long focal length, so you are a bit restricted in smaller spaces, but personally I love the challenge that comes with those primes anyway. If you need a high quality portrait lens, then this is your boy. Being 1.8, it's pretty good in low light. It far exceeds any lens that's 2.8 or above, and the subject isolation is pretty good. I mean, the background bokeh you get with it is stunning. In my opinion, the 1.2 is actually a little bit too much. Sometimes it is possible to have photos that are too sharp, so I think this one's a nice balance. You get that nice bokeh without it completely trashing the background. It's also got a nano crystal coat on the lens itself, so it kind of reduces flare as well from the sun, which I have noticed, and it's actually pretty good. As you can see from these backlit portraits, there's absolutely no flare whatsoever. It just creates this beautiful ring light behind the subject, and you don't get any weird like lens flares or anything like that, or any distortion, which is really good for golden hour photography, which I know a lot of portrait photographers obviously favour. So during this photo shoot that you've just just seen, I shot everything wide open at 1.8, so you can see what the focus like is when it's wide open, because obviously when you buy a lens like this, you want to be as wide as possible. That's the whole point of it. And I also tried some video elements as well. As some of you may know, I shoot hybrid when I do weddings and portraits, so a mixture of photo and video. So obviously video is really important. I shot all of that at 60 frames per second, and the footage you've just seen is raw, straight out of camera. I haven't done anything to it. The photos, obviously the shutter speed and ISO vary, but the ISO was extremely low. Shutter speed anywhere between 1/100 to 1/500, depending on the light available. And all I've done to those photos is just added my preset on. I haven't done any other editing whatsoever, other than slight skin softening on the occasional photo. So whilst this lens isn't cheap by any means, it is not what I would label an expensive lens either. I got this for 600 and something, I think it was, on a sale, and that was literally like 20 quid off. So I mean, the highest price you'll pay is about 700 quid. One of these. So as far as I'm concerned, for a prime lens, that's pretty good value. So as far as shooting families and things, I found this super versatile, because obviously you've got a larger space, especially if I take a family to the woods or something. As you can see with my son in the video, I'm quite far away from him. It kind of leads him to do what he wants to do and play without me being right in his face, so that's really ideal. With weddings, it is a little bit more restrictive. Obviously you have to be quite creative with how you use it, because sometimes, especially in a ceremony situation, it's quite tightly packed in, so oftentimes you get kind of like the torso and that's about it. So it creates beautiful close-ups, but you really do need to pair it with something like a 35 or a wider zoom to enable you to get those wide shots as well. So in that regard, it's not the perfect ceremony lens, but if you pair it with something else, it works really well. Obviously, if you're doing a wedding, you should be shooting with 2 cameras anyway. So keep this on one, and I'd say keep maybe a 35 or a zoom on the other. So in regard to the autofocus, obviously this is more a comment on the camera itself than the lens, but obviously the two work together. As you can see in this, the eye tracking is pretty good. Full disclosure, I haven't actually updated my Nikon Z6 II to the latest firmware, so the eye tracking could probably be a bit better once I do that, but generally speaking, it works really well for me. As far as weddings are concerned, it works really well in low light, at least well enough for what I need it to. And as you can see here, shot quite badly on my phone, but you get the point. It's really, really good at detecting eyes, especially as my son is quite camouflaged in these photos. I deliberately put him in green and camo to give the camera a little bit more of a run for its money. And as you can see, it did pretty well. Obviously the box stayed on him the whole time when his back was turned, but then when he turned around, the eye tracking pretty much got him straight away. These videos obviously aren't the best. I just filmed them on my phone off the back of my camera, so it was quite tricky kind of juggling the two of them, but you can pretty much get an idea. Also, just ergonomically speaking, it's super lightweight. Like, probably shouldn't do that. It's really, really light. I mean, I use other lenses, and after a while, especially with a flash on top as well, after a while, my hand's killing me, but this is really, really light. So the combo with this and the Z6 II is quite nice actually. According to Nikon, it is their second lightest lens in this selection. So yeah, if you are a fan of not having back pain, it's a pretty good option. So not really many negatives, to be honest. Yes, it's slightly restrictive, but it's an 85mm, what are you expecting? So yes, I would absolutely not shoot a wedding on an 85 alone. I definitely can, and I have done in various scenarios, but I would definitely pair it with a wider lens. But as far as portrait photography goes, this smashes the 50 out of the water really, in my opinion. I am obviously yet to try the 1.2, hopefully I will do soon, but personally from what I've seen from other people that have tried it and uploaded their photos, I think the bokeh is too much. I think background separation is lovely, but you get to a point where it looks super distorted and weird, and you just completely lose everything in the background and it just looks fake. And I really don't like that look. I like everything to be a bit more natural whilst having a natural looking bokeh. So personally for me, the 1.2, probably a bit too sharp, probably a bit too much bokeh. So for the price tag, I personally don't think it's worth it for what I need, but this one is a pretty good balance between the two. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Let me know.